we have a bit of a sequence of events. So for this evening, we've brought the A-list with us. That's not meant as any sort of joke about the current political... Okay, I won't even go there. Our A-list consists of speakers from within the screen, the film, and the gaming industry. So we'll hear from them in a minute. We also have the other A team, the number 1 team, which is our academic squad, who are down here in the front, mostly dressed in resplendent Canterbury University red. And we are going to tell you a little bit about what our degree looks like, what our different majors are, and all of that sort of stuff. So there's a little bit of experience from the industry, and there's a little bit of the wonderful world of university regulations. Can I get a polite applause? Thank you. Awesome. How's everyone doing tonight? Yeah, we're good? Parents, who are parents in the room? How are you all feeling? You can be honest with me. I have a 16-year-old daughter. I am projecting some of the fears that you might be having. You've spent the last 5 years telling your kids to get off there or whatever, go outside, and they've talked you into coming into the university to hear about becoming a game developer. We doing okay? Yeah. Okay, we'll see how we all do. Like I said, we do have people here from the industry to tell us a little bit about their experiences. And our first guest speaker is Richard Lord. Richard is a part of the film industry, working across quite a diverse amount of projects. His expertise is in particular in post-production, in editing and colour grading. So he's going to come to talk to us about a few of his experiences, how he got into the industry, and any other sort of tidbits that we have. So please, a bit better than a polite applause. HDMI. One, sorry.
And
two.
There we go. All right. Thank you very much, Hamu. Well, it's, nice to see everybody's smiling faces and see so many people enthusiastic about at least learning about what the film industry and gaming industries can offer and learning about the degree that UC offers. Speaking to the parents first, how many of you have had a word in your child's ear already and said, I think the film industry might be quite risky? Anyone, can any parents identify with that? Just raise your hand. A few, yeah. And that's something my parents said to me when I was sort of first considering going into the film industry. What I'm going to tell you tonight is that if you're telling that to your kid and it looks like they're ignoring you, then you need to encourage them to go into the film industry or the gaming industry. Because I think that a lot of you are probably here tonight because there have been films and games and experiences that you've had that mean a great deal to you, to the point where you're probably obsessively watching those films and wondering how the hell they made them. And I don't think it's going to matter what people say to you one way or another, you're probably going to go and try this out for yourself. So a little bit about me. This is my office in Central Christchurch, and that's my view if I was a bird on the wall. And I spend most of my day staring at screens and pressing buttons, these buttons, and looking at these dials in the hope of kind of ending up here. This is what a finished feature film looks like on a timeline in a piece of software called DaVinci Resolve, which if you do this degree or any degree in film and TV, you'll probably end up learning it. I think one of the best things I've done since starting training and ending up to where I am now is to remain adaptable. I learnt Avid Media Composer Final Cut Pro, Adobe Premiere, and DaVinci Resolve. And there's not one right tool for the job. You just learn them all, and it means you can take on whatever project comes your way. Something to keep in mind. So, these were the films that made a huge impact on me when I was young. Back to the Future, Jurassic Park, Pulp Fiction, probably not when I was young, but young adult. And then Lord of the Rings, of course. I'm an unashamedly, massive Lord of the Rings fan, and used to spend hours watching the behind-the-scenes content, just totally taken with how they made Lord of the Rings. It was one of the most remarkable feats, I think, ever pulled off in New Zealand. And that was enough to kind of convince me that going into the film industry was the right thing to do. So what happened? I went to university first and got a Bachelor of Science in Geography. And while I was there, studied psychology and philosophy. Prior to that, I'd been mucking around with cameras and making shitty short films with my friends. And then thought, after uni, gee, this film bug hasn't left me. So I went and did a one-year postgrad course at what is now ARA in digital video post-production, under, I have to say, the remarkable tutelage of Mason Ma. And if you're lucky to study under someone like that, you're very privileged. And speaking to the lecturers that are on offer here, you are in good hands. They are passionate people who love what they do. And I've been privileged to work with a couple of them. John Christoffels, who I'm going to show you some photos of later. When I finished DVPP, the digital video post-production course, I'll just get some imagery running here. This was my final project. I'll just show you a few snippets of this without sound. That got me a job in Wellington, and I ended up doing a kind of corporate-y video for the geography department here at UC. And I don't know for how long they used this, but I got recognised in the supermarket just last year by someone who said, "Hey, are you that geography guy?" I was so taken back. I was like, I got into this to become famous, and I think, if someone recognises me at the supermarket, I'll bloody well made it. That course was brilliant because it gave me such a wide skill set. You had to shoot your own footage, edit it, do sound, music, graphics, the whole gamut. And that's what you're going to get here as well, which is just brilliant. You're going to come out with such a wide skill set. As I said, after that course, I went to Wellington and worked for Propeller Productions, which had a office above the Embassy Theatre, well, sort of over a bit. And they were doing kind of business content stuff, case studies and so on, and took me on as an editor. On my first day, it was terrifying. I hadn't used Avid over the summer break, and the editor that I was taking over sat me down and said, "Right, just drop a bunch of clips on the timeline. I'll kind of run you through how we do stuff." And I sat there and froze and looked at the keyboard and just went, oh God, I can't remember how to use the software. And I had to ask him, "What's the overwrite key?" And he said, "B." I was like, "Right, oh shit, that's right, B." And put a clip down on the timeline. And then suddenly all the muscle memory came back to me. And I was thoroughly spoilt in that place. They had awesome facilities. They worked on awesome content. They put me in touch with a lot of cool people. I got to work on my first short documentary. Did some visual effects for a feature film. Poorly, I might add. I think the effect was trying to hang a cat from a noose in a horror movie. It just looked terrible. I'm not even going to show you. It looked that bad. But what I spent most of my time doing was editing. And this is kind of the in a funny way, a reflection of the truth of what it's like to be involved with film and TV. It is long hours, it is really hard work, and no one's going to be handing you stuff on a platter. You are going to have to work your ass off to get good at what you do, let alone get into a position where you're making good content, and let alone making stuff that people love. You know, in New Zealand, it's a miracle that anything gets made. So if you're part of a team that is trying to get stuff made, you got to give it everything you've got. So after Wellington, my wife and I had our first kid, and I got a job back down here at CTV. And that was an interesting experience. Lots of amazing people worked at CTV. It was an interesting management structure. They were very sort of keen on this fast turnaround kind of television. So I honed a lot of skills there. I actually lied to them to get the job because they said, "Do you know Final Cut Pro?" And I said, "Yeah, definitely know Final Cut Pro." And then my tutor, Mason Ma, gave me a book called Final Cut Pro for avid editors. And I locked myself in the edit suite on day one, changed the keyboard to Avid in Final Cut Pro, and then away I went. And actually I still do that. Whatever software I'm using, I change it to an Avid keyboard, and that enables me to just use whatever software I need. During my time at CTV, I got involved with a lot of 48-hour films, and I'd highly recommend you get involved with 48 hours. It's a wonderful way to experiment with films, try stuff, throw caution to the wind. You'll be under pressure, there's a firm deadline, all things that reflect the greater industry. Plus, it's a chance to sit in the theatre with an audience, see your work on a big screen, and gauge where you're at, story-wise and ability-wise. It's awesome. As a result of 48 hours, I won this $20,000 camera, and that was enough for me to make the decision to go freelance. And so since 2010, I've been freelance, working in film and TV. Going freelance, just while we're here, was the best decision I could have made. It literally saved my life, because I went freelance in 2010 after the September quake. February quakes happened in 2011, and CTV dropped. And I lost a lot of colleagues. Now there's no real reason to tell you that, but that's part of my journey. So I started Caravan Media, and as I said, since 2010 have gone on to work on numerous sort of television shows, a few examples here. More recently, shows like Second Chance Charlie and The Rings of Power, and a whole gamut of movies, which have been just awesome experiences. A lot of documentaries in there, and a few dramas. And more recently, these kind of top 3 films here. There's A Hole in My Bucket by Roy Tolkien, J.R.R. Tolkien's grandson. Morris and I, which is in cinemas now, and we are part of a team developing a movie called The Bitches Box, which is you'll see. It's women dressed as dogs. There's probably not much more you can do to sell it. But it's bonkers, is a good way of putting it. Right, where are we at? How are we going for time? Doing okay? All right. We were asked to kind of speak to you about a few things. One of them being kind of, where are things headed? I want to kind of, if you feel confident, yell out an answer to this, but genuinely, when was the last time you watched television? broadcast television? Anyone? Last night? Pretty quiet. So I think that's quite telling, really, because the young people in this room, you guys are literally determining where things are headed. Businesses, companies, streaming platforms, they're all taking notice of what you are engaging in. You are the audience, and things are going to head in the direction that audiences respond to the most. You guys are all on TikTok, Instagram, Snapchat, Twitch. You're all watching streaming. That's where things are headed. But it's a little bit more than that. We have passive storytelling and we have immersive storytelling. By passive storytelling, I mean films, books, TV, where you're not part of the story. Immersive stuff, gaming, you're going to hear a lot more about that. Gaming, virtual reality, augmented reality, 360 cameras, enable you to be part of the story. And I think that's a huge part of where things are headed in this industry. And it wasn't something that I kind of grew up with or indulged much in other than games. But now filmmaking and all that kind of side of things are becoming more immersive. So I'm not really an expert on a lot of those aspects of immersive storytelling, but I think it's a really exciting place that it's heading to, and certainly something that I intend to be more involved with in the future. Another aspect of sort of where things are heading is a more environmentally conscious style of filmmaking. Sustainability is key in filmmaking, in film and television. I read the other day that there's 13 tonnes of CO2 produced every time a 1-hour TV show is produced. 13 tonnes of CO2. That's why we're seeing such a massive rise of virtual sets and green screens and shooting on a volume. Star Wars and Mandalorian and all that, they shoot on these digital volumes, which I believe is part of what the digital screen campus is offering you. So, you know, you're going to be, as I said, grabbing yourself a broad skill base by learning this kind of technique, which is going to put you in good stead, I think. Okay, what have we got? Oh, yeah. All right, so filmmaking is not always glamorous, and there are many, many roles you can do. This is a random shot with the America's Cup in the foreground and a whole lot of people in my workspace, which I'm not too happy about. Oh yeah, sorry, this is what I was kind of getting to. So on the point of where things are headed, my colleagues, Jessica Todd, who's a producer, was recently awarded $375,000 to make 17 times 2-minute episodes, primarily for Instagram and TikTok. That's where things are potentially headed for you. Now that $375,000 sounds like a lot of money, but when you break it down, that's not a lot of money per 2-minute segment. It's about 11,000 or so. That money will fly out the door when you have kind of a team around you trying to pull that off. But it's encouraging that New Zealand On Air have recognised how attractive these other platforms are and are willing to fund content specifically for social media. This is on location on a film called Human Traces on an incredibly stormy morning. I'm not sure if this was the first day of principal photography at this location, but we're having a karakia here, and the wind really picked up and just absolutely smashed an umbrella into this guy's face just as I took the photo. I'll play through a couple of photos here to kind of give you a behind-the-scenes look at the non-glamorous side of filmmaking. As I said, many roles. Just watch the film credits, watch the gaming credits to figure out what you can do in this industry. There's everything from screenwriting to casting, directing, producing, cinematography, editing, sound design, set design, location management, hair and makeup. I could go on and on and on and on and on. The point is that there are a lot of roles. And massive opportunities for travel. I've been all around New Zealand filming and editing. I've been to Dubai, Mongolia, and Antarctica. And just, it's been amazing kind of having that privilege to do that. I have to say though that, if there's one thing I can leave you with, it's sort of just how difficult this industry is. It's not all glamour. And if you're getting into it because you want to be a director, then I'm going to give you some pieces of advice that I think you should look at in your own time. Not to scare you off, but to give you a slight kind of reality check. Because a lot of people go into this thinking that they want to be a director. If you really want to do that, directing and producing means understanding the film business. So with your degree, you should really be looking at doing some business papers as well. And that's the thing. To make a film takes an entire team of people, so you have to be a people person. You have to be incredibly passionate about films and stories, and have a willingness to take criticism and to evolve your skill set over a lifetime, really. I mean, look at George Miller, who's just recently released Furiosa. I think he's in his early 80s. You're in film for life. And this is what I mean. If you have that driving passion in your heart, mind, and gut, then you will get through the difficulties of this industry and be able to kind of keep aiming high at all times with whatever craft, with whatever side of filmmaking you get into. All right, are we like 3 minutes away? 3 minutes? All right. I'm going to stop waffling now. Oh yeah, that's Royd's film. There's a hole in my bucket. We are putting the finishing touches on that at the moment. Colour grading, subtitling, sound mix. I'm not sure quite when that'll get released, but that'll be coming out soon. This is the Bitches box. I'm going to play you what's called a proof of concept. I could play you stuff that's kind of finished and looking slick, but I think it's important to also look at something that it's in its birthing stage. This is a film that is based on a live stage show. So you'll see the stage show in this promo, mixed in with film content that they went out and shot specially to try and show investors how the film side of it might be worked in. And we've shot half the movie, which you're not going to see any of, but you'll see this proof of concept. And they're raising money now to shoot block 2. So this is the Bitches box.
Last Wednesday.
Hey, boys! Hey! Come over here, boys! Hey! Hello!
Oh, we could tell them a story about the time we dug that hole. What about the time we filled in the hole? No. What about the time we went to that hole? What, Ashburton?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah! We pulled up outside this real fancy place. Y'all have nothing to be afraid of. G'day.
Being a good dog is about having muscles, eating meat, fetching bullies.
You're a farm dog.
So as I said, they've shot Block 1. They've got comedian Josh Thompson starring in it with them as this huge grumpy ram with massive testicles. And it's batshit crazy. I mean, there's no other way to say it. But it's an example of different and bold storytelling. And I think that's what you should be doing. Don't just regurgitate what you've seen, the tropes you've seen, because people are tired of that. What's really encouraging about your generation is that you seem to be open to experiencing all of it. You're still going to the cinema. You're watching stuff online. You're watching stuff on social media and on streaming platforms. You know, you're in a wonderful position to tell bold stories and think differently and use new technologies to do that. So just bloody go for it, I say. All right. If I can go sort of, yeah, we've got another 2 minutes maybe? Just start throwing pies at me or something. Yeah. So we've just finished this film here, Morris and I, which is a feature documentary in cinemas at the moment. You can see it at Deluxe Cinema and it's about to open at the Lumiere. This is about the legacy of Sir Miles Warren and Morris Marnie. And this is a film that is really special to myself and the rest of the team who worked on it. I work in a little studio in the middle of town called Belmont, and in there is Rick Harvey, producer, director, Mike Calland, DOP, there's another young editor in there, Lauren Kett, and myself. And we're all separate entities. We don't work under the same company, but we all work together on stuff. And Jane Marnie and Rick came to us and we made this film together, and it's just been the most incredible, rewarding experience to see how well it's been received in Christchurch especially, but also nationwide. It seems to be resonating with people, and for me this is why I do what I do, because sitting in a theatre and seeing people react emotionally to a story that you're telling is just everything. And not every film you work on or project you work on will be successful. Some of them are just going to be a bit shit. It's just the way it is. But every now and then, you're going to experience real magic. And that is something that will just propel you forward and forward and forward and forward. So this is a very short teaser of Morris and I.
One of the most striking examples of modern architecture found in Christchurch is the Christchurch Town Hall. They say the auditorium is acoustically perfect, one of the best in the world.
Thank you. Good evening.
Miles Warren and Morris Marnie were a true partnership and a complementary partnership.
I always said too much and you always said too little.
These buildings brought something new to people's lives.
Oh my gosh. The cathedral just fell.
Your life's work sort of disappears.
I think that there is something terribly wrong in our city.
I was very angered with the attitude of Jerry Brownlee.
Well, the point is I had an opinion, and I don't back off that opinion.
There is something wrong when people say it's okay to knock down repairable buildings because they're in the wrong place.
This is about death and resurrection.
We had the job to do, to get down to the drawing board and do it.
It certainly can be saved.
It must be.
All right, closing comments. Not that one, hang on. This one. I reached out to the industry before coming here tonight and asked 20 people, what would you say to someone considering a career in film and TV? And I thought I'd only get one response. All 20 of them came back to me with quotes and pieces of advice. This is just one of them from Andrew Todd, who's a brilliant filmmaker in Christchurch and is now a board member on the New Zealand Writers Guild. Don't tell stories just because you think other people might want to hear them or fund them. Tell stories that communicate something that only you can say, something that you need to say, something you're even afraid to say. Otherwise, you're not making art, you're making content. And I think that's a brilliant quote. That's me. Thank you.
Come on now, one more time. That's a hard act to follow. But what a poignant description of a career that pulls no punches, that is quite transparent about the sort of industry, the sorts of work, the sort of point that we are up to in time in terms of what these sorts of pathways look like. So thank you for that. That's amazing. How are the parents doing? You all right? How are the kids doing? This is the point where you start worrying a little. The kids, we need to start getting our anxiety up a little bit, because maybe mum and dad are starting to think about, maybe I could come back to uni and I've got a story or two in me, and I was pretty quick on my phone to the QR code. This is where ideas start. That's actually a Rodney Dangerfield film from back in the 70s, so don't worry about that. Our next speaker is Ben Hart. Whereas Richard is a freelancer, Ben is part of Cerebral Fix, and he's the lead game designer for a company here, Cerebral Fix. Quite a large team working on a big, diverse amount of projects as well, including VR, AR, mobile games, all sorts of different stuff. So we're going to hear from Ben to talk about the game industry as well. Cool, thank you.
Yeah, talk about a hard act to follow. Thank you very much, Richard, for that. Very engaging and interesting. So, my name is Benjamin Hart, and I'm here to talk to you about video games, and specifically how story and narrative work in the video games industry. Now, I have a very interesting career, because I have not as much of a career as Richard. I have a very short one. It's probably relatable to a lot of the students, because I'm only a few years into it. It's something that I think the parents will find very reassuring, that not only are people with decades of experience from way back when in your generation saying that this is something that you can join, you also have people that are much closer to your children and are coming in and saying, I'm making a career of it. I've found my way in. You can do that as well. Now, video games are something that's becoming more and more accepted across the entire country as a profession. We have things like the GDSR, the Game Development Sector Rebate, which is helping to give back to the communities from taxes and keep jobs in New Zealand. And we also have local success stories like Black Soul Games with their absolute runaway smash hit and Dredge that are helping to show people that this is something that they can achieve, that they can do with their life. But before we get into all that, we'll have a quick bit about me. I went to media design school, University of Auckland, from 2016 to 2018, and after a short break, which felt a lot longer because of a certain global health event that happened, I joined Cerebral Fix in December of 2020. And that was an absolute godsend of a job, but also a very nervous one for me, because game design roles do not come around very often. And so as a junior design position opening up, I was very anxious about applying for this. I thought this would be quite a popular one amongst applicants, but I still managed to apply for it, and I had one quick trick really helped me apply for this. If you're a student here, worried about getting a job once you finish your degree, worried about getting a job now, I recommend you write this one down on your phone or on a piece of paper. It'll be a very good one. I just applied. Yeah, I didn't mentally rule myself out. I didn't look at my lackluster resume as a new graduate and say, nah, I'm not cut out for this. I can't apply to this. Someone with a better shot is going to get in before me. What I had on my resume is as follows. I had a degree. It's great. I had something that was industry relevant, and that was a really good start. I think most employers would quite like that. I had snuck in an OE overseas, so I had a bit of worldly experience to my name. Not much because of said global health event, but I had a little bit of one. I also had a very, something I think is very uncommon, especially in a region like Christchurch. I spent a lot of time picking potatoes, many summers in a farm. So overall, we have a field-relevant degree, we have an OE, and we have farmhand experience. A very, very unique background to have as a fresh applicant in the New Zealand industry. But I still managed to get this job, and as I said, this job at Cerebral Fix has been the absolute perfect place for me to land. Cerebral Fix is a very unique place to work, because we don't just do our own ideas. We don't just make what we want to make. We make fun for a whole host of very impressive clients and a very globally renowned media titans. Here's a couple of them that we've worked with previously. And I can't think of many other jobs, especially when you're coming in as a junior designer, that would give you the same range of globally renowned IP to work with as my job at Cerebral Fix did. Personally, I came onto a Disney Pixar title. So you can imagine that you show up day one, you don't know what you're doing, and you get told, oh yeah, you're going to work with the mouse himself. It's a very exciting time, one that I've found very enjoyable, very exciting. But it's not all glitz and glamour, unfortunately. There is a job there that you have to do sometimes. And for me, as a brand new industry, entry, it taught me a lot about what game design requires. It gave me a chance to build my own very specialized skill set within our wide industry. And for me personally, that was creatively interpreting briefs given to us by our clients and then being able to weave in mechanics and narrative that they gave us to work with and that we were able to apply ourselves to create something greater than the sum of its parts together. Now, I can't tell you too much about what I actually did on that project. I don't think Chelsea would be too happy with me. But I can tell you a little bit about some of the skills that I learned in that. So the main question I was always asking every day that I came and worked on that project was, how do we convert stories into mechanics? How do I take something that is so well known amongst fans, amongst people of all ages, all demographics? How do we take that and turn that into something that anyone can then pick up, even if they don't know what it is, and then still enjoy, but also keep those people that, the fans, the super fans that know everything about whatever moment we're giving them, and keep them interested, keep them engaged, keep them saying they know what they're doing, they're respecting the work. Now, this generally involved a lot of interdepartmental communication. I cannot stress how important it is to not just rely on yourself and your own talents, but also know that collaboration is going to be the crux of whether you succeed or fail in this industry. You are not going to be able to do this all by yourself for the most part. You're going to need to work with your fellows, even as a freelancer, as Richard can attest, to create something that is truly momentous. Now, I would work with artists, animators, and programmers, developers on this project, and I would be in charge of looking after the design, the story, the soul that we wanted to give to players, whereas each other discipline would come in and talk about what they wanted to achieve, what they needed me to concede, what they wanted each other to concede, and collectively would come together and try to make something that, again, made fans of the game, made each player show up and say, yeah, this is good. I'm enjoying my time with this in that moment-to-moment gameplay. All this collaboration would mean that whenever we come up with new ideas, these new possibilities of how the mechanics can interact with the story, how the story interacts with the mechanics, we would know that this is something that not only are we confident that we can individually do, but the team can do. The team then comes in, the team buys into this idea, the team finds the passion within themselves for a story that isn't necessarily their own, but they find a way to make it their own. They find a way to find the spark within them, I guess, to engage with this medium that was written by someone 50 years ago, 70 years ago, 100 years ago, in the case of Mickey himself. And this is something that I think is extremely important, especially for new entries, is that, again, collaboration is important, but it's also how that collaboration changes you, how you evolve with that change. It's very much about finding what you want to tell, that story within you that you want to share, and not just having it become content, but having it become art through the fires of collaboration that turn it into something better than what you could do by yourself yesterday, something that you could do by yourself a year ago, something that is the best that you can do. Now, Digital Screen Degree wants you to have all this collaboration because it's right there on the website. I highlighted it for you if you're not quite sure. Yeah, you'll be doing a lot of collaboration, and while the lecturers here, I'm sure, can tell you a bit more about what that collaboration will look like, yes, you are going to need it, and it is the most important skill you can learn, I can confirm. Now, I did talk a little bit about some other roles that we work with in the games industry. There's artists, there's animators, there's designers, there's programmers. There's a couple other roles such as quality assurance and sound design that I haven't personally worked with, but I'm sure can be a way for you to get your foot into the industry if that is a part of your personal journey that you want to undertake. An artist will always help me on these projects by telling me exactly what a storyboard will be looking like. They can draw that up. They can show me exactly how beat by beat an animation is going to play out, a story I want to share is going to play out. They can show me what the set pieces that I'm going to use to accentuate that story will look like. They will create that, and if they have a storytelling brain, they know exactly what they need to do to make the story pop there. They know where they can add in their own flares. They know where the story wants them to put focus and where they can sort of get away with slacking off a little bit. It's not all high stress work. So an animator will actually be able to help out by saying when they're making something, where players' attentions are being drawn, where their focus is being put on by the story that I'm actually telling. By working with them, I'm able to focus down what I want and make sure that the player is seeing what I want them to see. They're not looking off in a different direction and not finding a message where I'm not necessarily intending it to be, especially when working with someone else's story. You want to make sure that that core story is being brought through. Now, there's also a lot of crossover in these skills with the film industry, with television, and I've worked with a couple people who have come over from those industries, and their experience there has been invaluable. So even if you find that games is something you want to work in later down the line, there's plenty here that you would be able to join in and bring in from other learnings that you've had. Now, programmers might be something you don't necessarily think is relevant. You might have an image of them as being quite robotic, very, like ones and zeros sort of focused, not necessarily wanting to look at words and have a penchant for story, but I would definitely tell you to change that opinion right now, because a program with a penchant for story means that someone who is making the world around you, that is, the story is being told in, can change it to make that story as effective as it can be. They have complete control over things, and if you're able to get a good relationship with them, you will be able to make sure that what needs to happen will happen every single time. And then I've had countless ideas that I know would not have been possible without having someone in my corner who has that technical ability to say, yep, I know exactly how we're going to do this. I'm going to go off, experiment for an hour, come back, look at that, it's done. Look at that, this is exactly what was in your brain that I've now transferred onto a screen that players all around the world are going to see and enjoy. And then finally, that brings us to design. It's a bit of a unicorn of a job. As I said, I was quite nervous when I was applying for my job. It's very varied. Difficult to necessarily say that it's difficult or easy. It's varied on what it does. There's many ways to get into it. Like I have sort of described, I got into it from a very mechanics focused. I was thinking about what an ability does, what a character's strength is, what its weaknesses are, what a level might look like. Not so much from a story narrative perspective, but through time I was able to develop that skill set and lean into that focus. But that's also not necessarily what your journey would be if you decide to become a game designer. You might be able to find a job where that is entirely focused on the story and the narrative. You might be able to find a job that leans into those skill sets even more if that's what you want to do. Because it's such a varied field, your possibilities are endless if you're willing to put in the effort to find those possibilities. Now, my current work sort of reflects where the industry of games is evolving to, where it's changing to. Cerebral Fix has me working on what we call location-based experiences. So, these photos taken at local conventions. On the left we have Armageddon from this year, and on the right we have the Smart Christchurch Innovation Expo from last year. These are sort of what we see as the future of games to an extent. These are made using a combination of motion tracking solutions such as the Xbox Kinect, for those of you that remember that, except these actually work and they're functional pieces of equipment and not just bad cameras, as well as very impactful visuals such as LED walls like you'd find with the virtual production studio, as well as very big projectors and similar types of displays like this, essentially, yeah. These visuals will draw people in. People see them, they're unusual, they're extraordinary. They say, why is this here? What am I doing? And by the time they've walked up to it, they've started engaging. They've started interacting with the experience that you've made, and by then, they're usually hooked in. Most people, once they start seeing something move, they say, oh, what's this? I want to find out what's happening here. What do I keep doing? And before you know it, you've actually hooked in 300, 400, 500 people across an entire day of running an event. So you can kind of think of it as us capturing a small part of a Disney park's magic, except you don't have to fly halfway across the world and wait in line for hours to get this. You can instead get this at a local mall, a shopping center, on the side of a street, an arcade, somewhere that's close to home that is on your doorstep, essentially. Now, experiences that, like these, they move away from what's traditional and known. They want to become unique. They want to be exploring the unknown of the world, which is where all of the youngsters here come in. You guys are the future of that. You are the ones that have the boundless creativity needed to push this technology to its limits. Because as the solutions get better and better, the motion tracking options that we have get more precise. They're able to differentiate between someone's hand being here and out here that little bit better. They're able to do that from different camera angles. Projectors are able to show better colors. They're able to show more detail. Computers can run these solutions all together at faster and faster rates. It's you that are going to take advantage of this and bring this to the wider populace and say, this is the future. This is what we want to do, and this is what we can do now. Now, these two games that we have, I think I've got some pictures here. No, different ones. But two games that we had were a game called Robot Revolt and another game called Area 50 Run. Both of these were very immersive stories. You sort of put yourself into the shoes of what's happening there. But that's not the entire breadth of narratives that are told in games. You have games like these here, which are far more traditional in their medium. They're much more like a television show, a movie, where you go through the beats point by point and you experience the journey between these points in a bit more of a personal way than you would in television or movie. But the fact that some of these shows do get these games get transferred into shows and movies sort of tells you that what you see here can be much more what you're used to seeing, that it's a transferable skill set. You then have games like these ones, which have more environmental storytelling. They might have a story that you're experiencing as you play through, but there's also the world around you that the game developers don't necessarily force you to learn about. There's something there which they say, if you want to know about this, you can go off and explore. You can look through and see what's around you, and you can find all these bits and pieces that allow you to piece together the entire story in all of its glory, and then have that aha moment, that eureka moment when you get to the end and it all comes together in the grand climax. And finally, you have games like these, which offer you so much choice, it essentially becomes your own story. You are in complete control of the soul. It's a story that you can shape into being exactly what you want it to be. And as a developer, there's probably nothing more satisfying than seeing all the reactions that people have to something like Baldur's Gate, where people are talking about all these different characters that they've come to know and love because their stories have developed in a very personal way to each of these people, each of the players. That's my talk. I think I blew through it pretty quickly, but thank you all for being here. I know it means a lot to University of Canterbury for this great showing. So, yep, thank you very much.
between our two speakers, we get different insight into what the film and the gaming industry looks like. And between our two speakers, we have the experience and relative fresh experience. We have a freelancer and working within a big team, but there's a lot of similarity in terms of what both of our speakers have shared with us and contributed to us tonight. So one more time. In that regard, there's a lot in both of their talks that resonate with me, and especially amongst our team. We've designed this degree on a number of principles. The commitment of the university to put in a lot of funding to transfer a different campus, to be future-proof, to work to be able to be a real spot within Christchurch, within the South Island, within New Zealand, for students and for these sorts of productions. Like I said, it's a big commitment. We probably could have got 1 or 2 Hyundai ferries out of it. It doesn't really matter. But in order to talk to some of these, the principles that our degree's based on, I'm just going to invite our Dean of Arts, Professor Kevin Watson, to come and give a little bit more explanation to that.
Kia ora koutou. Pleasure to see you all this evening. Thank you for coming. I'm Kevin Watson, as Tamu said. I'm the Executive Dean of Arts. This degree, as you'll know, is a collaboration between the faculties of Arts and Engineering. Because what we're trying to do is focus on storytelling, but also build in the most modern usages of technology in that storytelling. And we started off from this principle that, well, in order to tell those really good stories, you need to understand what the stories are and how to tell them and how to make them kind of work. But in order to make them really fancy, you need some fancy gear as well. And that's the kind of initial starting point. And that took us to one point of convergence between several areas. And if you've seen me ever before talk about the degree, you'll notice that one of the foundations of it was to do with the convergence between various things, arts and engineering being one. So I thought what I would do for only 5 minutes or so is talk to you a bit about the vision behind the degree. Now, that might sound boring, but I hope in 5 minutes' time you'll realize that there has been a point. One of the reasons why I want to tell you this is that it informs the structure of the first year that you'll do if you come here and do this degree. It informs the rest of the years too, and I'm going to talk a bit about how the first year relates to the rest of the years in the degree. Now, you will know that there are several majors and a minor in the degree. On the screen here, animation, cinematic arts, game development, screenwriting, screen sound are the majors, and Indigenous Narrative is the minor, which you can attach to any of the other majors. I'm not going to go into so much detail about each one, but when I've stopped talking in a few minutes' time, we're going to have a quick, rapid-fire show and tell from lots of the experts in the field who teach into and lead these majors. So when I've stopped talking about the vision stuff, I'll make some kind of loud noise and wake you up, and then the other people can come along and tell you some detail, okay? Now, this is the kind of diagram that people like me, deans, like the look of, but nobody else cares about. That's okay. I'm going to tell you about it in a minute. What you need to pay attention to here are the different colored boxes. Each box is a course along the horizontal rows there. Each row is a year. I want you to focus on the slightly deeper red boxes for a second. These deeper red boxes are the boxes that we make you all do, regardless of the major that you choose. You'll notice that in the first year, there's quite a lot of those deep red boxes, and that's because in the first year, we make all the students do broadly the same thing. 6 of the 8 courses that you do are the same. So if you come in and you say, I desperately want to be a screenwriter, we say, amazing. We're also going to make you do some technical drawing. If you come in and say, I desperately want to be a sound person, we say, amazing, we're going to show you how to work a camera, and we're going to make you do some technical drawing. If you come in and you say, I want to be a camera operator, we say, fine, we're going to show you how to do things with the computer, and by the way, you're going to do some technical drawing. Now, some people say, amazing, make me do all the hard things, especially the technical drawing, because that's what I'm all about, right? Other people say, what? I want to be a screenwriter. What are you doing making me do, you know what I'm going to say? Why are you making me do this? And the reason is, this is a design feature, right? It's not a flaw. It's not by accident. It's a feature. And the feature is that we designed the degree based on feedback that we got from conversations with people in the industry. We know the skills that industry want students to graduate with. One of the important set of skills is to know enough in a really introductory way to be able to have a conversation with people in an area that's different to yours. Yeah? Alongside that, it's not really the case that these different areas have very clear, distinct boundaries. The boundaries are fuzzy, right? So if you want to be a director, then knowing how the camera works and how the sound works and how other things work is good, right? You have the experts, of course, to do the detailed work, but you've got to have a good sense of all the things. This has been made clear to us as we've spoken to plenty of industry people as the degree is rolled out. And my favorite example of this is a story we got told by somebody from Auckland who's got a film business there. And she said when she was starting out, she trained kind of in film, and when she was starting out, the very first thing she had to kind of learn how to do was how to stop a camera from melting. And we were like, what? Was there a course about that, or how did you do that? And she was like, well, no, I got paid. I got a gig, which was to film the inside of a house as it burned down. And we were like, oh, that sounds cool. We should do that. And it was for the fire service, and it was to do a 360 video. It's online, a 360 video so you could look around this house as it burned down. And if you've got a camera in a house that's burning down, then it gets quite hot, as you might imagine. And so the first task was to figure out how to stop that camera from melting. Of course, nobody kind of teaches you how to do that technically in a film course. But what you get from the right kind of course is the kind of design and creative ingenuity that you need to put the right kind of thinking into that question to figure out how to stop a camera from melting. Now, we have had only 2 years of the degree so far. This is our second year, halfway through the second year. And in each year, there are some students who come to us and they say, nope, I am a screenwriter, or I am a sound person, or I am a camera person. I do not want to do that other thing that you're making me do. And we say, that's okay. It's good for you. And one time in a previous session, I used an analogy which was to do with broccoli. And it wasn't a planned thing. I didn't mean to do it. It just popped into my head. This happens quite a lot. And I said it, and it kind of worked. And ever since then, the team has been saying, are you going to use the broccoli analogy again? And I keep saying no, because it'll stick. But I'm going to use it anyway, because it's a good one. Now, broccoli, as you'll know, very important vegetable. It's the kind of vegetable that you get told, I say this a lot in my house now, just get it down you, it's fine, right? You'll thank me later, I say a lot. It's a bit like that. The first year of the degree is designed to give you the skills that you will thank us for later, even if right now you may not believe us. In the third year, you will say, thank you for my broccoli. I appreciate it. Okay? So that's kind of why the first year's like that. Now, the other bits of red, deep red, going down the way here in year 2 and year 3, these are the core storytelling courses. At its heart, the degree is about storytelling, as I said. So you're all together in the first year. From the second year, you begin to break off into your majors, into the lighter pink colours here. But the deeper pink, you're brought together again for these core storytelling courses. So whether you are a cinematic arts person, or you're in animation, or you're in game arts, or game development, you're all together for those storytelling courses, and then you go off again. Also, in every year from the second year, there are project courses. A small one in the second year, a bigger one in the third year, and a whole year one in the fourth year. This looks like it's split up here, the digital screen project in year 4, but it's a project that goes on for the whole year. These are fundamentally important to the design of the program because they allow you to produce lots of different examples of screen content, quite small things all the way to bigger things in the fourth year, which become your portfolio, your show reel, your things that you use to sell to employers, right? Or to use as a way to persuade people in the end to give you money to fund your own thing that you want to achieve when you've graduated. The idea for the project in the fourth year goes right back to the importance of this convergence and collaboration again. And that's because in the fourth year, you'll end up getting together with people in different majors and collaborating on a project yourself. So you might bring together a cinematic arts person and a screenwriter and a sound person and produce a project of your own design. Now, I also want to talk to you a bit about the facilities that we have. I don't know whether you've been over ever to the other side of the campus. So on the other side of Island Field, there's another bit of the University of Canterbury campus. It takes about 10 minutes to walk there across the field. And a significant portion of that is being developed into a considerable set of facilities to be used by this and other programs. The situation is not the case that as soon as you arrive in semester 1 of your first year, we give you access to a $100,000 camera. I'm sorry about that. It's not going to happen. It didn't happen in the very first year of year 1. It's not going to happen in the 10th year of year 1 either. It's not going to happen. We have some very fancy facilities there. It's a bit like Christmas every few weeks at the moment because something arrives, something opens up, something gets working, but it is still not the case that in your first year you get let loose in there, I'm afraid. Because first of all, we have to teach you some things, and those things include some broccoli, right? So when you've learned how to enjoy your broccoli, then the reward is that you get to use the higher grade, more industry scale facilities. I know. See, it works, doesn't it? So the way the first year looks is that the first year students are taught on a mixture of over here in computer labs and in lecture rooms on the Island campus. There's also computer labs and lecture rooms on the Dovedale campus too, where the digital screen equipment is. There are also edit suites that you would access to, really from year 2 onwards, but maybe a little bit in year 1. You would at least see them operating in year 1, if not using them yourselves. There's a digital production technology lab, which is a set of computers with tablets to draw on. There's sound stages, so these are quite large rooms where you would record film in. One of them is set up as a green screen, and one of them is set up as a virtual production set with a giant LED wall. That's being installed right now. In fact, well, probably not right now, but you know, it's being done right now. Even if you were to start in the first year next year, you wouldn't in day 1 be let loose on the virtual production suite, but you'd be able to go in it and gaze adoringly at it if that's what you wanted to do. In a building called Wairaki, that's the sound hub, where we have voice-over booths, a Foley sound effects recording stage, which I'm very excited about, and other recording and mixing studios too. There's an art room and a stop-motion animation space, which is actually used in the very beginning of your majors. So at the start of your specialism, in the majors in animation, for example, you're in the stop-motion space producing little stop-motion videos, which we're going to hear a little bit more about in a second. So I'm not going to go through each of the spaces. Here's an example of just that very thing that I showed you a second ago. This is animation students producing their first, I think, real animation project. That was this semester just gone. Drawing in the art studio. This is somebody producing a short film. And this is the color grade suite. I'm actually now going to stop rather than flick through all of the different majors and spoil whatever I heard some gasps from the front row going, don't talk about that slide. Okay. I'm going to stop. I'm going to instead introduce the first of our academic experts and leads, Owana Jones, who's in the School of Product Design and the Faculty of Engineering, and who teaches into and leads our animation and game arts program. Owana.
Kia ora, everybody. My name's Wana. I actually quite like broccoli. And I have to say, I'm also quite into technical drawing, so we're doing well tonight. So, hands up, who likes drawing pictures? Lots of drawing pictures, yep. Who likes watching animated things, Pixar films? Playing games where characters and other things move? Awesome, you are all my people. So in the animation and game arts majors, we put those sort of together because they are fairly similar. They draw on the same sort of root of stuff. And we very firmly believe that it's nice to know a little bit about both. So you will learn about animating characters, be it in stop motion or in 2D or in 3D. You'll learn a little bit about visual effects. You'll learn about doing work for films, work for fully animated features for games, for all sorts of wonderful things that you may not even know about in the immersive space, which is really, really cool. So in that animation major, I often get asked what kind of software we use. I'm hoping that nobody asks me that later because we don't teach you guys software. You'll learn a little bit of software, yeah, sure. But I think one of our wonderful speakers talked to you a little bit about it before. This industry is built on people who pretended to know software that they didn't know. So what we teach you is skills. We use some software to teach you that, but we actually teach you the skills. So we go over not just animation, but that entire process. So we do concept art, we talk to you about storyboarding, we talk to you about character design, all of those things that sort of breathe life into anything that you put that's animated into a film. All of that stuff is really, really important and stuff that you will learn about in animation. Now, we think this stuff is so important that we make you do a bit of it in first year, even if you're not an animator, even if you're not an artist. Who is scared of drawing and does not want to show their drawing to anybody? Awesome. You guys will learn to draw too. When I finished, I've got like 3 extra minutes, I'm going to waste it on this anecdote, but that's okay. When I finished my university course, I initially wanted to be a programmer. I spent 8 months doing it, decided that it was absolutely not for me for a minute longer, and told my parents I was going to be an animator and an artist, and my dad said to me, I don't have an artistic bone in my body, and I'm sorry, Wana, you take after me. He's very proud of me now, but it doesn't matter if you can't draw. It doesn't matter if you're not an artist. And I don't want you guys to think about what it is you want to do in 4 years. Think about what you're going to do in your first year. Embrace those experiences, whatever they may be. And you may find you liked something you didn't think you'd like, or you may have reinforced that. So animation is all about this idea of visually making things move, but also designing them. You probably will have heard about this, but we have partnered with Aardman Academy, which is part of Aardman Animation. Some of you won't know who that is, but you may have heard of Chicken Run or Wallace and Gromit or Shaun the Sheep. So we're very, very lucky to be partnered with the people that make all of that stuff. And they actually teach onto our courses. So they teach into our first year courses, into our second year courses, and beyond, which is really, really cool. Game art. So these are kind of lumped together. They are a little bit separate, but they do work together. You can have animators that work in the games industry and game artists that work in the animation industry. They kind of work between each other. The nice thing about this program is if you're going to be an artist in games or animation, you also learn a little bit about the development work that goes into that. You learn a little bit about making the sound that goes into that. You learn about how to point a camera so that you know how to design your shots for those mediums. So all of that stuff kind of helps bring this stuff together, and then you come and you see me or one of my other colleagues in game arts and animation, and then you like really dive deep into it. You learn all about that idea of visual storytelling. We talk often about how a character is about the story, but have you ever watched somebody walk down the street and you know who they are just from the way that they move? That can sometimes be just as important as what they look like or sound like or what they're saying. So that's a little bit about game arts and animation. I'm going to pass over onto my colleague, who is John, who's going to skip over that.
Tēnā koutou katoa, ko John Christoffels, taku ingoa. I'm here to talk about cinematic arts, and I've got my colleague here, Jim Marbrook here, who could field some questions later on if you've got something, so please talk to Jim about that. I wanted to acknowledge first, Richard and Ben for what they were saying. They had a lot of things there that I'd like to pick up on, talking about just moving into the industry. One of the things, and then of course, Kevin also was sort of apologetic about some of these, this first year being the broccoli and all that sort of stuff. But I also want to ask you people that, I know there's a lot of film schools around New Zealand, and there's a lot of things, 1-year courses and 2-year courses, and I really want you to think about coming to a university as being an opportunity here for 4 years of really being, when you leave here, the smartest person in the room. That's a really important thing later on when you're in a job somewhere. Not showing off I'm the smartest person in the room, of course not, but just being the person who understands what other people are thinking and what they would want when they've got a project and things, and being able to contribute meaningfully to lots of ideas. And some of those things I want to think about what a university does. But when Kevin had the display up, you saw there were some electives as well that you can do each year. And I want you to think about the very thing, we talked a lot about screenwriting and telling stories, and it's really important, this storytelling. And I want to think that what a university can offer is for us to look at the past. We can look at film history, we can look at the history of the world, Aotearoa, and we can sort of learn where we've been, and that helps us, giving us the confidence to where we're going to go. We can also at the university do courses that are about sociology and understanding ourselves, where we are now, what Aotearoa means to us, what it means to be a New Zealander in this country, and that too is a very, very unique experience in the world, and that gives us the opportunity to make films and games and things that actually will make us that unique storyteller going forward. And then also, so where we've been, where we are, and of course the digital screen, the digital facilities that we've got are really the future. It's this new way of looking at things. There's things that I couldn't possibly, that none of one in this room could think might be happening in 3 years' time digitally. But at least with the equipment we've got, with the virtual realities, with the state-of-the-art digital, what Richard alluded to at some point, that we're probably not watching television as much as we used to, but we don't know what's going to be around in 3 years' time, do we? But I do know that in this course, we will be looking at those things. We will be ready for those things, and you will be having that unique voice to tell those stories. Now I'll talk a little bit about the structure of this, the cinematic arts. First of all, as Kevin talked, in the first year you're not sort of getting your hands on all the equipment, but there's good reason that too. In the first, we want to take you on a journey of cinematic art. In the first year, there's a course that is about the principles of screen production. And it's basically, we go on a journey looking at how feature film is put together. What is a grip? What does the best boy do? What is continuity? Why do we thank all these people at the end of a film? We'll see a script, a piece of paper, turn into a storyboard and then turn into a time-based film. And we'll want to know, excuse me, I'll just find my place again. We want to know about how the industry works, the safe ways in which ethical and safe working practices, and within drama and documentary. And we want to sort of understand all these things. And this is a really good building block. It's a basis for how we would then go on into the second year. Now, the second year, we start to then play with cameras. We play with lenses, we play with sound, we play with cameras. These cameras are brand new now. 3 years' time, they'll be old cameras. You know that. You've got a laptop at home that's 3 years old. It's old, isn't it? But another thing that was said here earlier is that that's not what's important. It's the principles. There'll always be a new camera with a new lens and a new sound system and things on it, but it'll still be teaching you those things. Lighting is such an important thing. We can look back at history over 100 years of lighting, and we can find really interesting ways in which things have been lit. We've now got LED lights that create, very lightweight. We can sort of move them around, and we'll soon have this volume which actually lights itself, so that you're being lit by the scene around you. So this is all changing, but the principles are still there. There's still a thing called a backlight, a key light, and a fill light, and we still want to know what those things do, and you still want to be that person who knows those things. So the second year we start to come to grips with those, and we start to make small projects, and we start to make little films, and we learn lots of different things. We come across a word called mise en scene. That's a very film word that you'll come across a lot. And from that second year, building these projects, to the third year, developing through into more technical projects, more looking at compositing, the virtual reality, all that sort of thing. And again, the cameras get bigger and more expensive as your confidence grows and as you're able to demonstrate that you can work this equipment. We reward you with the use of the facilities. Third year, you build on that, and then finally, in the fourth year, all those long hours, and it's hard work. It is hard work. It's been said here. You know, the university, if you look at a university week, it should be treated like a 40-hour week, like a real job, that you're here and you're doing 40 hours at least. You might have to do more than that. But that's what you're here to do, to learn. And in that fourth year, that reward of making a particular final project that we hope you've developed your original voice and knowledge, and now you get to present to the world a final unique film, a kind of calling card that will say to look out, Peter Jackson, here I come. So that's all I've got to say. Thank you.
Kia ora koutou, ko Adrian Clark tokunga. Good evening, everyone. My name's Adrian Clark. I am the head of the game development program here at UC in part of the digital screen program. So game development in DigiScreen is game development and design. If you're struggling to sort of reconcile what those two things is, game design is really about thinking about how we make games for users, and game development is how we actually make the games technologically to achieve those things. And I think Ben, covered a lot of stuff that we do in the game design program, which is always good and reassuring for me that we are hitting what it's actually like in industry. Unlike some of my fellow colleagues here, or actually most of them, I am not a game developer practitioner. I am actually from augmented reality. Originally, I had my own AR startup company, but there's a lot of overlap between those technologies like AR, VR, and game development. So that's my excuse for why I'm teaching it, even though I'm not somebody who's worked in the game development industry per se. Actually I should ask, how many people here play games? Are gamers? Would consider themselves, yeah? Good. How many people are interested in making games? I would say there's a good majority of people who play them who are interested in making them as well. I worked in a butchery for 6 years, and there is some truth of, once you've worked in a butchery, you never want to eat meat again. when the day I started developing games and interactive experiences, some of the thrill of playing them was gone, but certainly my job is to make sure that you don't feel like that in this program. So in the first year course, Prod 121, which is a required course, as I said, regardless of whether you want to be a screenwriter, a screen sound person, an artist, an animator, you name it, we're going to find some way to make game development relevant for you, be it you're interested in the technologies, you're interested in how your craft fits into the game development industry, or be it just that it gives you a new way of thinking about how you tell stories in a way that is interactive. Because really that is what separates game from film and TV. You, as the person who is experiencing it, are the one who drives the narrative. You're not just sitting there as a passive observer, you are actually driving the narrative and playing through it. So like a number of my colleagues have sort of talked about, this is a very portfolio-focused program. We're not just here to basically teach you things and have you do exams. You're going to be making games, you're going to be making films, etc., etc. From the first year in our first course, Prod 121, you'll be making, at the moment I'm redesigning the course right now, but the plan is you'll be making at least 2 games in that first year that you can put on Itch, you can put on Steam, you can put wherever you want, so that when you go to apply for jobs, you actually have things to show, not just a piece of paper that says, I completed 4 years of study, but you can say, I completed 4 years of study, and look, I have a collection of games which show what I'm actually capable of. And it's not just games, obviously, in the game development degree, because I am from an AR, VR background, I'm going to teach you a little bit of that as well, which of course then leads into some of those other things like location-based experiences, which is kind of one of the things that everyone's getting really interested in. Yeah, and I think I will keep it short there, but I look forward to hopefully seeing some or all of you next year. Cheers.
They always forget about the screenwriters. And yet we are the most important people because they can have all of this fancy equipment and all of the, high-end cameras and what have you, but if you don't have a really good story under that, we don't have so much. Ta-da! So my name is Gillian Ashurst. I am a working screenwriter and also a film director. And I have also, in my career, worked on the other side of the fence for the Film Commission in their talent development side of things, and also on committees who actually decide who gets the funding to make films. So I bring a lot of that experience to my new role here as a lecturer in screenwriting. So as you've heard from Kevin and many other people, storytelling is woven throughout this degree. No matter what major you do, you will be taught something about storytelling. So that's a given. We learn the basics. We'll be looking at character development, dialogue, themes. What is it that makes some films really work for you and some not? So we take a look at all of that, and we look at a lot of films and we read things. But if you are somebody who has a particular passion for screenwriting and for storytelling, then we also offer a major in screenwriting. You can also pick up some of our screenwriting courses just as an elective that you might choose to do alongside one of your other majors. So some of the things we offer in screenwriting, it really kicks in, as you've seen, in the second year when you get to choose your majors. We have just 212 as a course in which you learn really the basics of screenwriting through making your own short screenplays. So we take that as a kind of microcosm of the screenwriting development process. So we all learn to kind of pitch our own ideas. What is it that makes a really good short film? And from pitching quite a few different ideas, each student gets to develop one of them into their own screenplay. And that's in the first semester. And actually in the second semester, you get to pitch those screenplays that you've written. And some of those will be some of the projects that actually get made further along the line. So that's quite a unique thing that in our screenwriting course, you actually get the possibility of seeing your films produced. We also have, for the people who are very much more into the screenwriting, you can do a feature film writing course in that second year as well. And that goes across the whole 2 semesters, and we take a really deep dive into what makes a really interesting long-form story. But we don't just look at films. We also offer courses that will look at web series and writing for games, writing for social media, TikTok and what have you. This idea of convergence has been spoken about. So how can we come up with story ideas that work across more than one platform? How can you come up with an idea that will be not just for one short film, but that might work with a story engine that keeps viewers coming back to learn more and more about your story world. We have courses where we learn to develop your actual story world if you're interested in sci-fi or fantasy, right the way from the atmospheres down to, what will the people on that planet look like. We delve into that. But we could take those same ideas and put them into real-life contemporary films as well. How do we get the conflict happening that makes a story set in the local burger joint in Rangiora seem like we're watching Game of Thrones? So we kind of, we look at it from all different angles, and you get the opportunity to try lots of different types of screenwriting. We do idea generation, coming up with your own ideas. What is it that's going to make your idea work? But we also look at the craft skills. So, how do we develop a character? How do we write the dialogue? How do we get the structure that works for our platform? So yes, lots of different things. And the very unique idea that we also, as screenwriters, get to be involved in the production. So our screenwriters in the second semester can also take up crew roles on those productions and be involved, and that will make them much, much stronger writers because they can see what this blueprint that they've made actually becomes down the line and how it is used. So I'll leave you there. I'll hand over to Hamish from Sound, who's very keen. And if you want to catch me later, I forgot the red T-shirt, but you'll find me if you want to ask any questions.
Kia ora koutou, ko Hamish aho. There's something we've been missing a little bit so far in these presentations. What we just heard was obviously cliches. I don't know if anyone recognised all three of them specifically. We can talk more about that when I see you, if you come along. Cliches I've always enjoyed. They're good to know about for two reasons, so that you can embrace them or avoid them, whichever your need might be. However, I've always stuck to this kind of approach, which has been mentioned by Richard earlier with that great quote from Andrew Todd about being original, not just sort of finding out how to emulate, if you're a composer, emulate John Williams or Hans Zimmer, or if you're a sound designer, emulate Dave Whitehead, who lives in Wellington, and he's done quite well, and so on. It's good to be able to emulate people. It's a nice skill, a craft, and so on. And you can create content. If you're interested in creating art, then originality is always a good approach, I think. So that's just a thing I thought I'd mention there. Here's a quick activity. Listen very carefully to the last two sounds you will hear, the fourth and the fifth. It might be quite hard to hear the fourth. And I'm going to ask you quickly, what's happening in those sounds? What's happening in those sounds? You'll see images for the first three, and then the fourth and the fifth are mystery. Hands up who wants to try and tell me about the fourth one? It's a bit hard to hear, actually. Anyone want to hazard a guess at what that was? What it sounded like, in a way? Stepping in a puddle? Good. You must have heard some watery kind of thing. Great. Any other? Did it sound like a small space, a big space? That's a technical answer. What's an example of a place where you might have lots of reverb and step in a puddle? Exactly. And the fifth one, anyone want to describe what they heard? Someone in the middle? Yes. Sure. And was it one footstep? What did the footsteps do over time? Move away, I think. So, yes, something like that. Those recordings weren't of those things at all, so everyone's wrong. The third one was concrete, shoe on concrete. I forgot to bring the shoe tonight, actually, but the shoe on concrete. So was the fourth one, so was the fifth one. It's just that I artificially manipulated things to make it sound like the fourth one was, whatever you said, in a cave or in a puddle, in a space. And the fifth one was artificially manipulated to sound like it was multiple footsteps receding off into the distance. And it wasn't. That's just some techniques using software. Not surprising, but we can do that in sound, and so you'll learn all of that. Useful stuff. So you don't have to go to a cave. You can emulate a cave. The first year course is called Musa 126. It's a compulsory course for all digital screen students. You look at some software that you find out how to manipulate sounds with. Make sounds sound like they're in different places that they're not. You can record sounds, edit them, manipulate them, sync them up to video, put them in the right place, and do things to make them fit within the visual context, that kind of thing. All of that applies to games as well, so the skills are equally applicable to film, video, TV, video games, and theatre as well, and whatever else, some kind of experience, maybe audio only. That exists, by the way. There's audio-only games, there's audio-only films. So that's the first year course. We put sound to video, we edit it, we play around with it and play around with some music as well. After that, in the other screen sound courses in second, third and fourth year, we delve into more depth in terms of things like mixing sound together for game and film, recording sound in more detail with gadgets, expensive gadgets, medium expensive gadgets, and so on. Editing, mixing, critical listening, it's all in the booklet on the screen sound page. And then we do the project courses like all the other disciplines too. So that's when you get to work with a team of other people making films, games, and so on. This is some facilities that we have, which Kevin and others have mentioned. This was literally in boxes a few weeks ago. This is the sound studios called Wairaki. 3 recording studios with some booths, edit suites, and very expensive mixers and so on, and microphones. And it's very, very exciting. It's industry standard plus. And here's an example, some other things that we get up to in our screen sound courses. Film, game, TV, etc., etc. The end.
All right, so those are our 6 majors. I can't repeat them off the top of my head, but chocolate fish for anybody who can. No? Okay, cool. As well as those 6 majors, one of the features that we have here at UC is a minor in Indigenous Narrative. The Indigenous Narrative is about bringing Māori and Pasifika stories to life. We do this with a particular focus on partnering with each of the majors. So for Māori Pasifika stories, they might happen in any of those sorts of ways as well, in terms of screenwriting, in terms of game development, sound, all of those things. We might have a particular way of bringing those stories, centering them within Māori Pasifika contexts. That's the very short version of what we do there. Because we're quickly running away with time. We're going to have a little bit of time for question time, but rather than letting us do that as a big audience, I'm just going to direct us to all the people. We've got all the people in the red t-shirts and the red hoodies around. We've got Chelsea up at the top, head of New Zealand Gaming Association. We've got 2 of our students here as well. Hannah and Lucy Rose, both here. They can answer any of the questions from student perspectives. If you have questions about what we kind of are foresighting in terms of where these industries are going, or if you have questions about what the university is offering, or if you have particular majoring questions, any of our staff can handle those things. Just want to, one more time, thank our guest speakers for coming in. Richard, Ben, we've had the whole, we've tried to fit, we've packed in quite a lot into an hour and 45. We've got end users here, we've got the developers and designers here, we've got the education, the regulations, the technical expertise. These are the things that we're looking at doing. Telling stories with soul. was one of the things that we should take home with us, how we tell those stories, what they mean to us. What does it mean to tell New Zealand stories, Aotearoa stories, Ashburton stories? And the technical capacity to tell those stories, how we get the technical training, those and the convergence of these industries and our role here as a university to facilitate all of that. Hopefully all the parents are feeling good. Hopefully you've heard a lot of our enthusiasm for our different pockets of the areas of the university that we have responsibility for. But if you have any questions, please feel free, come down. We're going to spend some time in the next 15 minutes. Go out, grab a snack, come back in, ask some questions, we'll be around. Thank you for your time, your attention and your consideration. Ngā mihi kia koutou katoa.